Hello, my name is Jedediah Bigler. Thank you for continuing this journey with me as I continue to learn handguns in the Sonoran Desert Institute Certificate of Handguns program. Today we are going to talk to you about what causes failure to feed, failure to lock, and failure to unlock, and the sub-assemblies inside of a SAR B6 that we were working with. And that is the gun that I'm going to focus on throughout this course. It's the one I'm a little familiar with it. Like I said, we're going to start with what causes the sub-assemblies and faults and everything. What causes failure to feed, failure to lock, and failure to unlock. And then we're going to talk a little bit about my understanding and how much research I have to do for this. We'll finish it off with what I think it'll take to become more ready to be a gunsmith or a pistol smith. Thank you. Bye. We're going to first start off where this is the SAR B6. Just to show you, it is clear. There is no ammunition there, and the magazine well is empty. We're going to go ahead and send the slide forward. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to field strip this down to the sub-assemblies that we're going to talk to you about: failure to feed, failure to unlock, and failure to lock. We'll flip this over and push on this button, pop it out, and this comes out. Very simple. And then we just slide it forward. Place your thumb here over this spring right here. As you slide it forward, we're going to talk about these sub-assemblies. You have the slide, you have the recoil rod and spring, you have the barrel. These are the sub-assemblies. For purposes of this class, I forgot to mention, there is no live ammunition. I do have these dummy rounds or these snap caps. The first thing that we're going to talk about in those three failure modes is failure to feed. With failure to feed, we really want to take a look at the magazines. We want to take a look at, is the magazine in good shape? Is the follower there? Are these feed lips, are these lips there, are they bent? Is something gonna keep this from holding these bullets or these casings in? Are they working properly? Is the spring inside the magazine good? Is there any rust? Is there anything that's gonna keep this from pushing the next bullet into the barrel for chamber? So we do have the cartridges. Are the cartridges good? Are they manufactured well? Is there cracks? Is there bulges in them? Is it the actual bullet in itself? Making sure that you have the right ammunition, right? The coil spring is the next thing we're going to look at. Is this thing good? Is it broken? Is it elasticy? Does it have spring to it? And following that, we need to take a look at the rod in itself. Is this thing damaged? Is this going to keep anything from? Is it going to keep the spring from being able to be properly used? So if all that's good, your ammunition is good, your recoil spring and rod, if those are good, let's move on to the feed ramp right here. In the feed ramp, over time, you might get carbon buildup, you might get scratches and everything, and you might have to actually polish that to get everything to run smooth. All right, and then finally, we talk about the chamber in itself. The chamber is clearly the barrel end, right? Does this go down far enough that it'll lock? As the bullet gets loaded into the chamber, it comes back and it pops in. Does it lock? If it doesn't move forward, you know that it's good. In theory. So, as it fires, it unlocks and extracts, right? So that is the feeding. If it is not doing that, there is a failure to feed link. Is this here to hold into place? To hold this into place? Is everything there? Is anything cracked, right? That's the sub-assemblies, the barrel, and the push rods and spring net, and the magazine in itself that deal with failure to feed. Next, we're gonna go into failure to lock and unlock at the same time. So it's kind of the same, but in reverse. So as the cartridge comes out of the magazine, slides into the barrel, right, through the feed ramp, and comes in, does it lock? What are the, on this, there are things that are in the sub-assembly on the slide itself that keep things good. We know that this one locks. Let's talk about recoil spring. Does the recoil spring and rod work? Do they keep everything in place? Is everything good to go? If the recoil spring is good, we know that the failure to lock and unlock is not going to be due to that. If the slide in itself is good, we know that the slide is not. But we need to talk about the barrel link, which is this portion of it. You know, is this right here gunk in here that's going to keep it from moving up and, you know, moving as the slide comes back, right? The barrel tilts. Does it tilt? Is there gunk in there? Is there gunk on this? Is there enough carbon buildup that's going to keep it from working? Is there enough gunk in here or in all these little nooks and crannies going to keep it from locking? These right here, these are your locking lugs right here. These are where they come into, right? Do they sit in there? So on the other end of that, so we covered the locking. After you fire the bullet and everything, the slide's going to slide back. The barrel's going to tilt. If all that works, then we're good to go. That is not a failure to feed, failure to lock, or failure to unlock situation. You might have something else going on. But really, a clean gun is going to tell you that. And over the reading through the Gun Digest books this week, we learned that a good cleaning of a handgun might fix every single issue you're having because you just didn't clean it, all right? So now that we've talked about the failure to feed, failure to lock and unlock, I'm going to go ahead and place this back together, but talk to you about my understanding of all this. It's really the same thing over and over and over and over and over. It doesn't matter if it's a striker fire or a hammer fire, a rifle, a pistol, shotgun. The cycle of operation is the same. It's the same 8 steps. It's the same thing. You know, the revolver actually might have things in different orders, but all 8 steps are there. If you have a good working knowledge of the cycle of operations, you really can't go wrong. So that's how simple that is. You just do a quick function check. You put it in the safe. Well, it doesn't fire, so that's good. We'll go single action. So single action is rack it back, fire it. And what we're gonna do is I'll hold the trigger back, I'll rack it back again, and then I'll let go. If I hear the audible thud, we're good to go. So as the trigger goes back, the hammer comes forward. Rack it back, keeping that in, hammer's back, it is not reset. There we go. Now the trigger is reset. Now we're in single action. We'll go ahead and fire, reset it. It's a little different, but now we'll go into double action. Double action is where you pull that, you hear the first click, the hammer starts moving. I can back off. Hammer's half cocked. All right, I've decided I'm not going to shoot, or I'm still in high alert, so I can pull it back a little bit more until it stops. But if I decide to go ahead and pull that trigger again, that's what I'm going to get. And as the trigger as the hammer falls, it will rack back. If there's any issues in that, if there's any issues beyond that, you would only really know if you go take a range day and go fire this gun to see. So if that's the case, we've talked about failure to feed, failure to lock, and failure to unlock. I've showed you how to field strip, very simple, and I showed you how to put it back and go through a real quick functions check. Finally, the last thing is what can I do to become more proficient? What can I do to be more comfortable in everything? And I'd like to say I always hit it on the nail. More practice, more work. So the thing that I do is I talk myself through instructions. I learned it as a young airman in the Air Force. I taught it as a sergeant to my young airmen, and I still live by that. So what would make somebody better, especially for me, is verbally stating what I'm doing, reading the manuals, and reputation. Do it, do it, do it, do it. Don't just put your gun away and never touch it again. Field strip them. Learn that gun, learn that platform. With that being said, my name is Jedediah Bigler. I'm a student here at Sonoran Desert Institute.